Hello, good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of incredibly fast-paced racing action in the one and only official iRacing GTE Sprint Series, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back once again for our GT machines to roar the way around one of the major international venues in the world. And for week 8 of the 2025 Season 2 campaign, we are here back in the United States of America to kick off what is an American triple header, and it begins in the Sunshine State of Florida at the Sebring International Raceway. A circuit located near Sebring town. It is a circuit which is situated on the former Army airfield known as the Hendricks Army Air Base, and it is a circuit which has preserved its characteristics all the way from its opening many a year ago. In the fact that whilst this circuit does have plenty of modern day tarmac, it also merges that together with some old sections of the runways, and that means you've got plenty of old concrete beams and slabs, and put those together, it's going to be a roughshod ride for one portion of the lap, and it's going to be absolutely smooth for the other portion of the lap as our drivers make their way around this 5.79 kilometre course. Therefore, to do well here at Sebring, it's just as much about outlasting the circuit and the bumps and bruises that you're going to receive from it as it is about being able to maximise your performance at all 17 of its corners, where it be the opening at far to left-hander at turn number 1, the very tight and twisty section of turns 2 all the way through to what is turn number 13, or indeed the run through Sunset Bend to complete lap and start it all over again as we welcome you to this live broadcast from circuit side. You're tuning, of course, via YouTube, and that's on youtube.com, and search for TX11TX or 30 Paul Walsh, and welcome to you guys and girls that tuning in via the YouTube broadcast, and in the content booth you have myself, of course. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX11 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, as we welcome you all to this live top split broadcast from our slightly revised session rather than our normal Friday. We're here, of course, on what is Wednesday today, Wednesday the 7th of May 2025, for the 1900 Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time slot, or UTC slot, we should say, given the fact that due to scheduling, we can't quite situate ourselves in our regular Friday slot. But don't dwell too hard on it, because we will be back to Fridays in a couple of weeks' time. But speaking of in weeks' time, let's give you a recap of the season so far and what we still got lying in wait as we head into today. And as we can see on screen then, we are now deep into the second half of the Season 2 schedule. Last time out in week number 7, it was a trip for the Australian circuit of Mount Panorama, also known as West Bathurst, and it was all about who was the king of the mountain on Friday the 2nd of May. But today it's the Sebring International Raceway, and after today it'll be another Wednesday broadcast in a week's time at the Watkins Glen International Circuit on Wednesday the 14th of May, before we do return to our Friday slot on the 23rd of May for what will be the WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca to complete our American triple header in week number 10. In our penultimate week, it will be the Nürburgring Combined in Germany, and in our season finale we will be back to the United States of America for the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle Circuit on Wednesday the 4th of June. So plenty of absolutely eye-watering circuits still to see all of our racing take place on, but as we head into today, let's talk a little bit about specifically the circuit we're racing on here. And of course, this is the Sebring International Raceway's international or full course layout, located near the city of Sebring in the Highlands County of Florida in the US of A. And thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the track maps that come with it. And this circuit, indeed, stapled in the minds of many a local and international racer as well, with 17 corners, its extensive length, and, well, the old airfield absolutely dominating the scene. And, well, with most runways not having elevation changes due to the natural need for planes to take off from them, you can imagine there's very little elevation change here. But what this circuit lacks in elevation change, it makes up for in corner variety. But as we get ready to go racing, we can't go racing without rules. And to give you a quick reminder, this is an open setup series with setups restricted to 50% on their fuel loads, and that will force a mandated pit stop in the race for fuel. In terms of the race itself, the grid shall be set via a closed qualifying session, which is currently ongoing, and it will begin the race then with a rolling start, as is the tradition of the GTE Sprint Series. Drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 16 or more instant points, and they'll be disqualified if they go all the way up to 25 instant points. But that's enough rules and regulation. We're here for the racing, and, well, as a result, we make our way back to circuit side, and we look to a couple of drivers that are out there right now in what is this strength of field at 3,222 strength of field in terms of the I-rated average amongst all of our drivers, and we do have what is the best part of 24 drivers here, all looking to go for glory. Some of them new, some of them veterans of the top split broadcast in the GT Sprint Series, including the likes of Vicente Aparicio, but we also do have Daniel Hernandez, I believe, making his debut today in this top split broadcast. I'm very happy to see him out there, or Danny Hernandez as he's known to friends and family. We also do have Adrian Dominguez, as we can see here, the K2 GTD competitions driver, making his way on around there, currently in third place in this qualifying session on what will be his final flying lap. Indeed, most of our drivers coming towards the end of their flying laps, and quite a few Corvettes and Porsche 911 RSRs here today. We've also got a Ferrari or two, and well, some of the more famed Ferrari drivers here, including Matthias Matthew Siegel, as we see him here, the German driver making his way on around in the number 18, and well, he may be a staple of the top split, but meanwhile, a driver who is new to the top split today, or relatively new, in fact, he has been on the grid a couple of times in the past, but not as frequently, Matthias Eriksson here in the number 23 Ferrari 488 GTE, and we look forward to seeing how he's going to get on here as he tries to get his first valid lap on the board, but isn't able to do so. We've also got one Ford out on the grid, and that's Julian Eichenlaub, as we see him crossing the line there, going up to 5th place on 1 minute 55.831. And we also do have a BMW M8 out there, albeit it's not the car of Sylvain Depesche that you're seeing on screen, the number 3 Porsche 911 RSR, but it will be the car of newcomer Jose Takuri, who currently is in the pit lane, and I do believe is going to be in the pit lane to the end of this session, and we started from the back of the field. But as we do see Sylvain Depesche making his way through the final corner, what's he going to be able to do here? Well, he's going to be disappearing and then rematerialising for the Ethers. He runs it incredibly close to the exit wall there, coming out Sunset Bend, and as he crossed the line from 21st, he moves up to 16th, but that's not where he wants to start. Normally seems to be starting in what is the top 10, but he's going to be starting in 16th place today, as we also look to Grigori Rab, as we do see the number 12 Porsche making its way out the final quarter, running very wide out there as well, which is the whole idea, but not getting as close to the tyre barrier. And as Rab makes his way across that timeline, well, he improves to 56.172, but it's not enough to move him further up the order. But with that, that is qualified complete, ladies and gentlemen, and it is Vicente Aparicio who has taken what will be that pole position by almost half a second of Santi Burbell. And well, further on down, Matthew Broom coming to a halt here in the number 6, started 12th today, and well, some big surprises there in qualifying, no doubt about it. Also, we do say hello there to Marcus Seufer, who's on the grid once again. It's been some time since we've seen him on the grid, but we're very happy to see the number 20 at Porsche there, and well, right now he's down in 20th place, so with his door number, so qualifying where he's expected to qualify, but will he finish where he's expected to finish? And just to give you a recap, of course, door numbers in these top split broadcasts represent, and indeed for any official iRacing lobby, they do represent where your iRating is compared to your roles. Number 1 is the highest I-rated driver, meanwhile the highest number, in this case 24, will be the lowest I-rated driver. But enough about that, it's time to head to the grid, ladies and gentlemen, for our one and only race today, 45 minutes in duration, and we'll head to the grid to see how they all line up for said race. So as the drivers head to the grid, this is how they line up for the Week 8 Top Split broadcast, the official iRacing GTE Sprint Series 2025 Season 2 Week 8 race here at the Sebring International Raceway. We can see Vicente Aparicio lines up on pole, the Spaniard taking a pole position with 54.962. A phenomenal lap followed up by his fellow countryman Santi Burbell, who was half a second behind, started second in the number 10. It's then going to be Daniel Hernandez on his debut for VSR competition, starting in 3rd place, and he'll be in the company there of what will be a 4th place driver of Adrian Dominguez there, as it is the case where the Spaniards have absolutely locked out the front 2 rows. And then we're going to be seeing Julian Eichenlaub starting in at his 5th there, and a good qualifying performance on the Ford GT driver, breaking up the trend of Corvettes all at the front of the field. But then we head back to a Corvette in the form of Wolfgang Stoffgen, who we started in 6th place there, the German, and well, only what was 300 between himself and Eichenlaub, if that in the end, so a very close qualifying session between the pair, and then only a further what was 13 thousandths to which your 7th place starter Mario Veren, and well, good performance from him as well to get right in the mix. And indeed, it was a further, what was 11 thousandths to 8th place starter Sergio Lazar, and well, for the number 8 driver we come to was the number 13 of Diego Gonzalez Garcia, who starts 9th today, and will just inching ahead of Dominic Noquel, and the Motorsports Factory driver completing your top 10. Outside the top 10, well, from the one Porsche driver who is inside the top 10, we then come to a row of a Corvette and a Porsche, and he'll be the Corvette of what is Justin Noel, who starts 11th for SJS Racing, and he'll be in the company of what is your Porsche driver of Matthew Broom, the Oceania region driver there, starting 12th place. On row number 7, it's going to be the combination of Grigori Rub and what is Callum Lux, and those two will line up together there. A 0.2 of a second gap between the two in terms of qualifying. Could we see Lux really having to go defensive versus the likes of Matthias Matthew Siegel, who starts in 15th place in the Ferrari 488, the highest qualifying Ferrari? Alternatively, will we see Siegel have to fend off the charge of Sylvain Depesche, the Frenchman there starting for 16th, and now he's got work to do from further down the order. On Wade's row at number 9, we'll then have Jörg Seefeld and what will be a newcomer, David Budek, and we do have then completing completing the top 20, the combination of Marius Blendia and the Northwest driver being followed up by Joseph Sim Racing's Marcus Soivo, who complete what is your top 20. Outside of the top 20 then, we still got a couple more rows to go, and what's the penultimate row of the grid, row number 11, it's going to be the combination pair of Ian Hannon and what will also be them, what is Mav Gardner, and then on your final row of the grid, it's going to be the American driver of what is Jose Takuri, and then we do have Matthias Eriksson, who'll be lining up 24 for 24 starters in this top split race. Was they all make the one around on the full formation lap here? We haven't got too long before we do go green flag racing, and when we do, it's certainly going to be a treat to the eyes. There's no doubt about that, but it's Aparicio has taken that pole position, and we're very happy to have taken it once again, and indeed, one of the big names who lines up then, he is the number one car in terms of door numbers. We are expecting on paper at least, he would be the driver who should lead the way if all the theory plays out correctly today, but of course, theory is one thing, putting it into practice is another, as we do say hello in the YouTube chat there to one Manuel Garcia Gonzalez, who's cheering on VSR Competition, and good evening to you, Jose Manuel, well, in fact, let me say that again. I'm getting my names all mixed up here. Juan Manuel, I should say. A good evening to Juan Manuel, and I hope you're doing well today. As I stumble over my words, but don't stumble over the fact that we've got plenty of racing to come here. And, well, as we do see our field making its way through a lot of Corvettes in force, and the Corvettes really dominating the top 10. And then we've got a hungry pack of Porsches behind with an intersprint fleet of what is Ferraris and also a BMW. And here is that BMW that's had a very slow start in terms of its formation lap. And I think Takuri there being caught napping in his car as he makes his way around in the number 21. We've got pit lane starts for both Ian Hannon and Julian Eichenlaub, albeit Hannon not in the car in the pit lane, but Eichenlaub is, so therefore as Hannon had to retire due to a technical issue, he may have, and that means we're going to be dropping a driver already before we've even gone to green flag racing. But as the drivers make the way through, we jump on board here. Grigori Rab as he makes his way on around, and the number 12 driver looking to go well today, no doubt about it, but of course he rolls his way on through here very slowly this time around, of course, albeit carried some speed, but nowhere near as much speed as they will carry through Tower Corner when they do go green flag racing. And well, he'll see that right in front of him is going to be Justin Noel's Corvette, and he'll look to try and take on the American driver as quickly as possible. Qualified very well, did Justin Noel, in the fact that the number 22 driver starting just around the edges of the top 10 will be hoping for a top 10 finish, and that'll be a huge amount of I-rated he can gain if he's able to pull it off. But as they head in towards the last few corners here, heading in towards the Le Mans corner, the complex of what is turns 15 and 16, and then it will be the Allman Straight all the way to Sunset Bend. We're not too far away from going green flag racing now, ladies and gentlemen, and further down the order, of course, well, one of our Ferrari regulars, Matthias Matthew Siegel, has got a lot of work to do from all the way down in what will be the 7th row of the grid, but he'll know that it's a long way around Sebring, over 45 minutes, as they make the way down the back straight, indeed one of the bumpier parts of the circuit, and this is where they'll be racing over the old concrete slabs, and anything can happen by the time they do get to that checker flag. But as they make the way now into what is the final quarter, heading on this formation lap, where it's going to be to Vicente Aparicio to take us to the green, and when he does, who is going to be leading out of that opening corner? Will it be him? Will it be Santi Babel? Or will it be one of the drivers from behind? Well, it's time to find out, ladies and gentlemen, as we get the Week 8 top split race underway. And he leaves it as late as he possibly can, and Vicente Aparicio goes green as they roll the way down towards turn number 1. The field fans out, trying to fill up as much space in that start-finish straight, and as they head towards the braking zone, it's side-by-side between Berbel and Hernandez, and it's going to be side-by-side between the turbo all the way through the corner, but Berbel will get back ahead of Hernandez on the exit. Carl running wide there, off in the distance, that's Callum Lux has been sent wide, and also Grigori Rab has gone wide, but as they all come down towards turn number 3, most of the field has safely made its way through these opening corners. Sylvain Depeche on the attack here versus Matthew Siegel as they roar the way around. Causes the barrier there on the right-hand side of turn number 5. Can't quite see who that is. I believe that might be Gonzalez Garcia, who's been involved in a bit of an altercation, along with one of the other drivers there, but we'll get you an update on that when we can. But meanwhile, Jose Takuri has jumped all the way up the running order into 8th place at the start here, and the BMW M8 driver has come through like a bulldozer here, albeit I don't know if he's made contact with anyone, but the number 21 driver has had a lightning start, and he's all the way up into 8th. He's dropped back to 9th now as he fights with what is Mario Veron, as Veron gets back ahead in the Corvette, but that BMW has absolutely absolutely come through the field. And well, if it's done it cleanly, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, that is the start of the season right there. Meanwhile, they make the way down in towards turn number 10, side by side between Budek and Blender as Seefeld falls back. And well, right now, Jörg Seefeld also trying to get involved here as he's got Mav Gardner all over the back of him as they roar the way in towards Tower Corner, turn number 13. And the queue builds up behind them as it's side by side between two of our drivers. And that is going to be the battle between Julian Eichenlaub and what is Dominic Knockel. And well, do excuse the fact that Eichenlaub is showing us a couple of laps down on the time until that will be very quickly reset in due course. But whilst there's battling going on there, meanwhile, we have had a change of position as Sergei Lazara has moved up into what is 5th place, getting ahead of Wolfgang Stuffgen. And we're making that progress now, making his way down the back straight. You can start to see the field is fanning out a little bit as they head in towards the final corner of this first lap. But it's not quite over yet for Mario Varen, who's got that pressure growing from what is Takuri on his outside. And as they head into the braking zone, Takuri on the right, it's going to be Varen on the left. The Corvette driver Varen gets the inside of Sunset Bend. Will Takuri look to cut it back, or will he just simply tuck it in? He's going to tuck it in this time and not fight it too hard as they make the way around through the final corner. Well surveyed. Depeche try to look for a move down. Depeche also having a brilliant start to this race, getting 6 places. And he's going to go to 7th as they cross that timeline, going side by side into turn number 1. It's going to be door open here for Depeche to try and go for the move, but of course the tighter you are to the apex here at turn number 1, their speed you can carry into the corner. It's a known fact, they've rolled the way through, but Surveying Depeche does get another place and moves up into 9th. As behind now we do see the long queue of cars. Matthew Broom, they're going slightly defensive versus Matthias Matthew Siegel, albeit he's not going to worry about that for too much longer because he has got the brakes on that Porsche versus the Ferrari, and the Ferrari driver right now just falling back into formation as they come in towards what will be the turn 7 hairpin. But afterwards, 1.5 laps of racing, it is Vicente Aparicio in the lead by the best part of 1.2 seconds over Santi Bell. Then we have Daniel Hernandez in 3rd, Adrian Dominguez in 4th, ahead of Sergei Lazar in 5th. Then it's Wolfgang Stoffgen in 6th, Justin Knoll in 7th, ahead of Mario Varen in 8th. They're all Corvette C8R drivers. Then we have Sylvain Depeche, the leading Porsche driver in 9th, ahead of Jose Takuri, the BMW driver who absolutely leapt up the field at the start of the race. And then we do have Matthew Broom in 11th, best of the rest as they come down to the braking zone for turn number 10. But meanwhile, making our way out the braking zone is side by side between Stoffgen and Knoll, as Justin Knoll trying to make progress here in the fight for 6th place as they make the way in towards Tower Corner by Collier. Well, right now Stoffgen just simply trying to keep what is a fast charging Corvette, the number 22 at bay. And well, right now for Justin Knoll, after qualifying so well in qualifying, he's not holding anything back as they make the way through the corner complexes here, heading in towards what will be the Le Mans complex very shortly. And Stoffgen right now just trying to make himself as wide as humanly possible, but of course this will cost them time to the top 5. I think for Wolfgang Stoffgen, he's not too worried about the top 5. He'd rather try to hold this position early on as he gets a much better exit there out of turn number 16 and onto the Auburn straight. But as they make the way down, you can see they're weaving a little bit to try and break the toe as Justin Dolby, well, absolutely sniffing the toe as much as he possibly can. But as they head in towards turn number 17, well, they're going to stay a bit distant for now as meanwhile, further back in 20th, Dominic Knockel having a bit of a difficult start and he's on the charge here chasing after what is Matthias Eriksson. But I think some damage on what is the number 5 Porsche, definitely holding back because he's losing a lot of time on this back stretch and therefore not really gaining. He'll gain under braking here, given the fact that we have had Ericsson go very deep in the Ferrari. He goes almost so deep as to hit the outside wall there underneath the bridge gantry, but in the end they will stay as they were, and that goes to show you the damage on that Porsche. But from them at the Ford GT of Julian Eichenlaub gains another place up the inside of Mav Gardner, who lets it go there. Gardner just cuts back and takes it nice and easy as they make the way out of turn number 1. He knows he's not fighting with the Ford GT driver. He's had a bit of a nightmare start to his day, having started for the pit lane, and Mav Gardner just watching on now as Marcus Soifer tries to get a little bit closer, but coming back to Wolfgang Stoffgen and Justin Knoll. Well, we talked about this battle a bit earlier on. We ride on board the dashboard here of Justin Knoll as he's getting closer and closer, looks to the outside, swings to the outside into the hairpin. Can he go in for the move here? My gut feeling says he's going to go for the cutback if he's going to try and pull it off, but in the end he's made to wait his turn as they come up towards what will be coming home very shortly, and as he does so we jump back on board with the C8R driver in the number 22, and I can tell you one thing, he might be one of the lower I-rated drivers in this lobby, but right now he's not showing it as they make the way through turn number 10 and will run the way from right into double left and then right again. It's going to be a very tricky place to pass here as they come in towards Tower Corner. You can see it, Knoll taking a much more direct line to the apex of turn number 12. And meanwhile, a lot more body language being shown from Wolfgang Stoffgen in that C8R in front. And I get the feeling that right now Wolfgang Stoffgen trying to break every little sniff of toe that Knoll can take. And well, sometimes those quick movements are not going to help out if anything. They actually scrub the tyre a little bit more. Alternatively, Wolfgang Stoffgen has a car that's not as pointy into the corners and therefore needs to create much wider approaches into apex under braking in order to give himself a bit more room rotation. Justin Knoll, meanwhile, seems to be the Corvette. Whichever way he points it, it goes there. It listens to its master's call as they head down the back stretch, this time on lap number 3, while leader's already pulling a long distance away. And, well, you can already see how that gap is 4 seconds from this pack to the lead pack, and it's only going to grow bigger as they make the way out around. And as they do, well, Matthew Broome, meanwhile, battling side by side here with Jose Takuri, and up the inside he goes. And I think this is going to be a move that's consolidated there as he parks it in front of the BMW driver, coming off of the final corner, however. And there's the BMW in its full glory, really staring down our camera as it makes its way through. In fact, it almost takes the camera off the car, as we can see Takuri swinging to the inside there. And as they head to the break-ins over the opening corner, oh, Lil the brakes goes to BMW. Well, it's not one of his strong points, but he's going to make it stop. He has to. And then it's going to be Broome going deep. And meanwhile, Matthew Siegel up the inside there. And here comes a move from Budek up the inside, and contact there with Siegel. And Siegel is sent round in the Ferrari. And I think as a result, right now, the Ferrari driver will be absolutely frustrated before he got the move done. And in the end, ends up getting turned around for all his endeavours. But he waits to get it returned. And in the end, he stays for an outside line as he does rejoin, but drops in behind Dominic Knockel. And, well, a bit of an alteration, a bit of a contact there. And we will get you a replay of that when we can, ladies and gentlemen. As even more fighting unfolded here, Julian Eichenlaub with the Ford GT takes a sneak peek up the inside there of Blendia, but can't quite find it this time. And Jorg Seefeld, in fact, I was at the inside of Jorg Seefeld with Blendia up the road, but no change between them. As meanwhile, speaking of changes, here's Justin Knoll now making the move up the inside into turn number 10 on Wolfgang Stoffgren, and in the end, Stoffgren having to let the place go. And, well, it does look as though there, in fact, the number 9 of Mario Varen getting stuck behind his teammate, and that's giving Sylvain Depeche the opportunity to get up the inside here into Tower Corner. And, well, the Frenchman goes up the inside of the German, makes it a smooth move, and moves into 8th place there. Good move. As a bit of a mistake there for Varen coming out to the corner. A little bit too much wheel spin and oversteer, almost sending him round onto the grass, but catches it just in time. And, well, there's some brilliant moments there, no doubt about it. But let's take a look back to what happened right at the start of the race, ladies and gentlemen. And here's the replay of the race start. And in particular, we want to try and get a perspective of a couple of drivers who had some nightmare moments, but also an absolutely incredible one from this man, Jose Takuri. Let's ride on board here and bring up what was the dashboard as he made his way around. If we can, no, we can't. But look at the start from Jose Takuri. What a phenomenal start here as he made his way to green, and will in the end just picked his way through the field. And that was absolutely clean as the whistle came blazing hot into what was the opening corner. But Jose Takuri, by the time he got there, had already gained 10 places in the run to turn number 1, and what a way to do it. But we take a look back and some more footage from what was the race start, and this time now looking to what happened to Grigori Rab and Diogo Gonzalez Garcia. And, well, you can see how the field was stacked together, and you'll see Takuri here has all the space in the middle of the road at the back of the picture, and he's going to come through. Grigori Rab, meanwhile, finds himself on a free wide very early on as they make the way down and in towards that braking zone. And as Takuri went all in, where it was 4 wide into turn 1 there, but Takuri finding that space, a phenomenal start from the BMW. Going very sideways there was one of our drivers, getting it all wrong. And Rab, I think, just tapped on the rear coming out of turn number 1. Was that from one of the Ferraris? Was that Siegel getting a tap on the rear? We're not quite sure, but it looked like there was a bit of a moment there. And Gonzalez Garcia, meanwhile, in a freeway fight, in the end gets ejected to the barrier at turn number 5. Well, that's a replay of what happened right at the race start. And then we did have a moment ago a major incident for 2 of our drivers, including Dominic Knockel and Matthew Siegel. And this was on lap number 4. And these two, oh my good lord, we catch the end of it in terms of how they come together. Do we get the start of it? And I think we are going to get the start of what happened between the 2 of them. Well, this was coming into what was not tire corner, coming out corner, and in the end coming across their mates contact. And, well, I don't think he was too pleased with the way the Ferrari driver came alongside him, but I think Siegel would argue that he had the right to be there, but the 2 of them definitely having a disagreement, and that's how both of them ended up back in the pit lane, both having to be towed back there. And I think they'll be having words after the race. But still, coming from our replays back to live racing action, because of course for everything that's happening off circuit in the replay, we've also got plenty happening on circuit in live time. And we're looking back to the front of the field here as we come towards the end of the opening 10 minutes. Aparicio right now leading by a comfortable 3.3 seconds and gradually growing that gap. The only driver right now lapping in the 55s. The last lap he set was a 55.92. What's he going to set on this lap is the big question, and the answer to that is going to be a 56.17. So the pace is slightly dropping, but to be fair, after they put those tyres up temperature, they're now taking some of the freshness away from the tyre, so you would expect they will now start to lose a little bit of lap time here as they settle into the duration. Also potentially do some tyre saving and fuel saving, because once he's got the gap open to a couple of seconds, the toe will be broken and he won't want to have to worry anymore about pushing too hard to try and break that toe further. But Santi Burbel In second place, being chased by Daniel Hernandez, the two teammates working together here, trying to break away from Adrian Dominguez, and then we do have Sergey Lazar, and well, right now we can see there the odd one out is Dominguez in the KTD competitions machine, as he is surrounded by other Corvettes in all the same pattern and livery. But as they enter the braking zone, there's nothing between the quartet right now, as they all stay closely together, evenly matched at this point. But of course, strategy is going to become a big part, and we did see strategy play a big role, of course, at Bathurst only a week ago, and I can imagine even more is going to come on in here as the day wears on. But for some drivers where the wear is wearing on indeed on those tyres, well, Jose Takuri, the BMW driver who had that lightning quick start, which we did catch in what was the open lap replay, well, right now for all the lightning quick reflex he had on the reactions, well, he's under some growing pressure from David Budek, as Budek in what is the traditional Golf livery Porsche, the 911 RSR, they're staying very close and trying right now to put some pressure on the number 17 as he weaves and winds his way through turns 10 through to 13, into the braking zone for 13 they come, and as they do, well, right now not able to find a way in. Matthew Broom just behind him. Remember, Broom was right inside the top 10, and then that battle into turn number 3 we saw only 2 laps ago really ushered him back down to 12. But he'll be trying to get back into the fight as soon as he possibly can as they come on out of the corners and in towards what will be a Le Mans section. And we also do have Marius Blendia trying to catch up to this group as well. You can see him in the rear of the picture in the silver and yellow Corvette, primarily silver with the yellow alternating colour. And well, as he tries to make the way on, no change at the moment, but a good run coming out of Le Mans will bring Budek a little bit closer to Takuri, but Takuri having the better straight line speed. And you can see that in that BMW, he is very gradually being closed up to by the Porsche driver, but by no means as much as if they were on similar amounts of downforce or gearing. So therefore it does look as though Takuri resetting that BMW up for straight line acceleration. But from them, we do look here to Marcus Seufer being passed by Matthias Eriksson, and Matthias Eriksson going up the inside there and getting that move done. And as they make the way on through, the Ferrari driver now up to 16th place, and Seufer meanwhile tucking in behind here and just trying to follow him on around and perhaps trying to get back at him later in the race when strategy becomes the bigger factor. But of course, plenty of places to go for overtakes here at Sebring, no doubt about it, and that's why it's on the greatest hit list of circuits for the GTE Sprint Series in terms of how the series is organised, and the track rotation is done from season to season. And most of these circuits, of course, are voted on by what is the community on a running rotational pool to make sure we go to our regular favourite circuits, but we also introduce some fresh circuits from season to season and year to year, as they're introduced to iRacing alternative circuits we just don't normally see, but every so often do want to see. And right now, Santi Babel in second place. The only thing he wants to see is a clear track in front of him as he tries to chase down Aparicio, and with his teammate Daniel Hernandez behind, well, he won't put too much pressure on him, but I can imagine that pressure might be growing a little bit as we have a change of position for 10th place at the hairpin. And well, we can see it, David Budek has moved ahead of Jose Takuri, and Takuri right now has got a whole pack of cars queuing up behind him looking to do similar. As we ride on board here with the 10th place man looking from the back of what is the number 17 Porsche, and Budek right now with Takuri only at 3 attempts behind him. We can see it, Broom and Belendia getting a little bit close to each other, starting to get familiar with each other as they make the way out of Tower Corner. So therefore we could see what would be a pair of battles here rather than one big battle as they head in towards the latter half of the lap, weaving and winding the way now into turns 14 and 15. Such a difficult complex to get right, and then as they come into 16 it gets even harder as you've got that quick fire left into right direction change, but no difficulties there for David Budek, who runs a little bit wide. He'll pick up an off track for that, but he'll get away with it this time, but he can't make a repetition of it over every single lap he turns, otherwise there will be a drive-through penalty quickly coming his way as we jump on board here. Meanwhile, with what is the number 11 of Marius Blendia, and Blendia here in the Corvette staying close to the back of Broom, but not quite having the legs under braking to get close enough. That runs a little bit deep there coming through Sunset Bend, and therefore just simply has to back off as he gets very close to the exit wall there, as it did Takuri in the BMW. And well, Broom taking a much more conservative line on exit, Blendia not making contact with the wall as he sets a 57.952, and well, that is faster than Broom and Takuri, but to be fair, they were fighting on the previous lap. You can understand right now why Blendia might be looking to try and make the move sooner rather than later, but the problem is he's stuck behind the Porsche driver, and whilst he has got the greater pace, it would seem at this point in the race, he hasn't got the ability to look for a move at this time, and therefore he's having to play the patience game. But speaking of not playing the patience game, well, we did have the change for what was 10th place between Budek and Takuri, and this is how the move was made only a lap ago. And well, this was coming in towards the hairpin, a classic place to go for a move up the inside, and Budek in the end having the speed. Takuri not defending this intriguingly enough, and well, in the end, Budek coming from a long way back, and I think Takuri expecting it, but also expecting that the Porsche would stop on a dime, but then ran a little bit deep, but Budek getting it stopped in time to essentially force the move on his rival, and that's how the move was made for 10th place as they make the way back onto our live screens, and we come towards the end of the 15th minute. But looking from them to a Ferrari right now that's still on the hunt, we made his way past what was Marcus Seufer, only a couple couple of laps to go. And now Matthias Eriksson is looking for what is an opportunity to pass Mav Gardner in the red and black Corvette C8R as they make the way on through what will be turns 11 through to 13. And as they do with that wonderful liveried Ferrari, no doubt about it, but that Corvette also looking quite smashing as well. But points aren't scored for what will be liveries. They're scored for leadership positions in terms of iRacing gains or losses and championship points over the official iRacing seasons. But the point being here, both drivers running some absolutely brilliant liveries on the cars, and they definitely do stand out, particularly if you're an avid sim racing photographer. I think you'd love to get some snaps of those. But as they come on through there and in towards what will be Le Mans corner now, coming out of 14-15 in towards 16. Well, Eriksson staying close, but not close enough to look for a move. But meanwhile, speaking of close moves up the road, it's going to be Takuri back up the inside of Budek in towards Sunset Bend. And we talked about the fact that BMW is very fast in the straights, but weaker under braking into the low-speed corners. And we're seeing that immediately as Takuri back up the inside there, just running it close to the wall. And now it's going to be Budek back on the charge here. 2 tenths is the delta, but you can see as soon as he gets into that toe, he's barely gaining anything as they head in towards the braking over turn number 1. And that's where the BMW is so strong. It's got the momentum. Meanwhile, further back, Matthias Eriksson looking for a potential move here versus Gardner into turn 1. Going all into the inside here. The Corvette driver gives in the space as they go too wide for the left-hander. And as they come on through, well, it is going to be a move made there. And Eriksson up to 14th. As I'm hearing that Callum Lux has had to be told to what is his pit stall. He's come into the pit lane, but there's been a bit of a problem with the car. And he's had to make his way down pit row. Not quite sure the story there. We have lost another driver to the pits for the time being. But meanwhile, Eriksson up into 14th place and continuing his way through the field. And some brilliant pace being shown here by the Ferrari 488 driver. And well, I think he would have been hoping that he qualified a little bit better, but he didn't get a valid lap on the board, and that's why he's got to do it all the hard way. And Mav Gardner trying to take a look back there into turn 7, but thinks about it and then thinks about it again as he can't simply get alongside it enough to be able to force the move versus the Ferrari driver, and runs a little bit deep for his misdemeanor. But from then we've got to change of position, and that is Mario Varen getting ahead of Wolfgang Stoffgen, and Stoffgen going very slowly. Well, that's intriguing now. I thought it would have been going a little bit faster. He made it really clear to his teammate, look, I'm giving you the plays, even though I don't want to. Alternatively, was there a bit of an instant for Stoffgen coming out of what was turn number 10? Perhaps a little bit of wheel spin or oversteer that cost him momentum, and as a result decided to yield the place then. But the car looking to be practically at a standstill as they came into turn 11 and 12. Well, can we get a quick replay of what exactly happened there? And I think we can, and here is the replay to explain how Stoffgen got passed by Mario Varen. And it was, we looked at Wolfgang Stoffgen's car, comes through turn number 10, and a big slide there, catch it in time, and that explains it. I was going to say, if he was letting his teammate go, he would have done it much more rapidly than that, in terms of he would have been much more subtle in terms of the speed he yielded in order to let that happen, but then had to catch the car. Well caught that, man. Otherwise the full team would have been going around, and that would have been a race that had gone from good to bad to disastrous very quickly if he had let it go. But thankfully he didn't. He put it back under control, and as we take control of the live timings once again, well, right now Adrian Dominguez in what is 4th place, now starting to have a bit of pressure building from Sergei Lazar behind, as the KTD competitions driver getting closer there. And well, as they make the way through turn number 5, gap standing away 6 tenths a second currently. Well, there's not much change between them, but the point is that Daniel Hernandez has pulled a 2.5 second gap up the road, so the top 3 now is starting to pull away into the distance a little bit, as I'm hearing out of my commentary booth window that Jörg Seefeld has left the pit lane, so they have been able to repair the car after the open lap altercations he was involved in, and he's going to be back to the racing. But in terms of the close racing, we've got the battle there, and we've also got a battle here between Mario Varen and Jose Takuri. Takuri trying to go around the outside of the Corvette driver, who's struggling. But then we can see Varen going very deep on the brakes there on the inside into the hairpin, so forcing Takuri to think again. And Budek, meanwhile, just watching from behind as they all scramble in towards what will be the run-up towards turn number 10. Now we ride on board here with Budek in 11th place at the moment. He's in the prime popcorn seat view as they head towards the braking zone. Takuri on the inside there as they break the WAN down as he turns right. Well, Budek will see they're still side by side on exit, but Varen has been able to stay ahead, getting the better traction out the corner as they run nose to tail in towards what will be Tower Bend they go. And Budek they're swinging back to the inside to make sure that Broom can't get out the inside or into the braking zone. You can see Broom there in what is the television reverse camera, and as they make the way on towards what will be turns 14 and 15, well, right now this pack of 5 drives from Varen, Takuri, Budek, Broom and Blendia, absolutely brilliant racing between them, and there's nothing separating them at the moment. I can imagine if Varen is to continue fighting like this, he's just going to cause them to concertina together, and well, with that, I would imagine that Matthias Eriksson will be on the back of this from 14th place very quickly indeed, given the fact he is 6.5 seconds behind behind right now, but he is lapping much faster as a result of all the fighting. But as they power the way down the back stretch, we can see them all there in perspective as they head into the final corner braking zone, that long trail braking zone here where you want to go as late as you possibly can under braking in towards Sunset Bend to carry all the speed in. It's a very gentle trail braking zone at first, and suddenly you've got to get the car stopped for the apex as they roar the way on through. Well, Marius Blendier into the pit lane here. Now this is interesting, going for a huge undercut. He's going to be the first driver to pit from the main racing pack, and this is a gamble in the number 11, but I like where he's going with this. He recognises immediately he's coming up behind a big battle. What's the point fighting in it? Given we're in the pit window, you might as well come in right now and throw your dice to the wind. Well, as he does so, that's going to release Ian Hannon ahead of him, and Hannon having started from what was the back of the grid, making his way on through. But remember, Hannon is in a different race, given the fact he's already had one extensive pit stop. I believe that was for the pit start, but the point being the fact he was a bit further down, so Blendier shouldn't be too worried about that. But as we look to Santi Burbel still being chased by Hernandez here in the fight for second place between the two drivers, well, Aparicio still running away by the best part of 6 seconds up the road, and well, from them we do look back to what is that fight for 9th place between Variant, Takuri, Budek and Broom, and we can see here once again Budek getting close to the back of Takuri's BMW, and a really interesting battle between these two. It really does feel like a bit of a classics battle on the fact that BMW's got all the power and acceleration on the straights, but it hasn't got any performance in the corners compared to the Porsche, which has got it all under braking in the low speed corners and also in those traction zones, but it hasn't got the top end acceleration, and therefore that's why we're seeing this back and forth between them, and it's enabling Varian just to give himself a little bit of breathing room here as they make the way in towards turn 14 once again via Bishop. But as they come for a left-hander, it's going to stay as is. Meanwhile, for drivers going in towards Sunset Bend, this will be a change position for second place, and that is going to be Daniel Hernandez up the inside of Santi Burbel. Now, not really fighting each other too hard here. I would imagine this is going to be a bit of a team call, a bit of a strategic call here, and therefore it's going to give Burbel the opportunity to save a little bit of fuel, and also in turn save the pair of them a little bit of tyre life. If Hernandez thinks he can run away, then he'll be very grateful to do so. Burbel's just going to tuck in for now, but of course, if they feel as though they're stepping on each other's toes, they might swap them back again, or a fight might break out, because they won't want Adrian Dominguez to get too close. You can see him in the rear of the picture. He's being hunted by Lazar still, but Lazar not quite able to get close enough to put the pressure on to look for that move. But as they make the way on through turn number 3, we look back to drivers making their way out of turn number 1. This is Sylvain Depeche, who started from 16th place on the grid up into 7th and is now trying to take on Justin Knoll. Both of these drivers have had phenomenal races so far, it must be said. Justin Knoll really being a fighter in the yellow and black Corvette, and meanwhile Sylvain Depeche doing what Depeche does best, and that is making that Porsche go long. And well, from them to a Porsche who's also doing very well, David Budek right now, well, he's looking up the inside of Takuri into turns 3 and 5. Can't quite find it this time around, but definitely trying to get adventurous here. But Matthew Broom is waiting to attack should we see Budek have a bit of a moment. And well, right now the number 6 driver of Broom, he's thinking about it in terms of how he can get involved. As Budek there trying to come off racing line, try to put some mental pressure on Takuri to go deep. He does so, goes round. The two I think catch each other. We'll get an exterior replay of that shortly, but Broom has to slam on the brakes there in order to avoid making contact, but it enables David Budek to get on through. But was there contact between the two of them, or was it a mistake of Takuri's own volition? Well, the wonderful thing is we will be able to get a replay of that very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, and in fact we will be able to now as we take a look back at the incident. Now, this was under braking in towards what was the hairpin. Can we get a better camera angle for this? I don't think we can, as Takuri went a bit deep, and there was a bit of contact between the two of them, so Budek tapping the rear right quarter panel of what was Takuri's car, so that did send him around, but in the end Budek getting on through, and I think Takuri won't be too pleased about that, but what he will be pleased about is the fact that it wasn't a worse contact, and all 3 drivers are able to carry on, and it's just some light damage to the rear aero of what is that BMW M8, and well, you can understand that when they're racing that close, contact is going to be made. But as they make the way onto what will be at the back stretch, meanwhile drivers who are making the way onto what will be Sunset Bend, Justin Knoll and Sylvain Depeche, they're separated by 3/10. They exit the corner. In fact, it's going to be a lot closer. Depeche gets an absolutely brilliant run out to Sunset Bend, and Knoll right now as we ride aboard and look back from the rear of the Corvette in the lead of this battle. Well, Depeche is close. Does he think about it into turn 1? He's not going to yet. He's just going to stay there and put the pressure on. I think his idea is he's going to try and go for the move coming in towards turn number 3 as they come on through. Sparks fly off the inside barrier, such as how close Depeche is getting to the inside wall, but he can't quite find the move as we've got a pit stop going on for Matthew Broom, who's decided, okay, I've had enough of running in the pack. I might as well get out of the pack as well because it's costing me time. And well, we're going to wait to see whether Blendier gets ahead of Broom, given the fact he opted to pit much earlier. But there we can see Depeche on your screen backing off, coming out of turn number 5, not really close enough to make a move as they make their way through Big Bend at turn number 6, that's what it's called. And as they come down towards turn number 7, no change between these two at the moment, but very close and very intriguing this battle. But coming to the thought of what is Broom versus Blendier, well, here is Broom. Can we get a blimp view? Yes, we can. And there's Blendier coming through. So Marius Blendier gets a huge jump there on what is Matthew Broom, and going well. To be fair to Blendier, also saving what's 2 seconds stationary time in the pit lane in terms of fuel put in the car, but Blendier gaining rapidly, and in fact that gap opened up to 4.5 seconds between the two of them, so that goes to show the undercut strategy which Marius Blendier has brought to the table is absolutely brilliant. And I think right now, if my prediction's correct, at this rate or not, Marius Blendier is going to jump ahead of both Budek and Takuri when they do come for their pit stops, and I think he's absolutely played it right on strategy, unless one of them severely underfuels, so has a lightning quick pit stop or at least a brilliant in-lap. We'll have to wait and see how that all plays out as Matthew Broom comes out in the lonely 17th place, but he'll know there's still plenty to play for before all is said and done. And if we look back to David Budek versus what is Jose Takuri, well, right now these two continue to be locking horns as Mario Veron has got 3 seconds over the pair of them. He's been able to break away after what was that slump in his pace only a few laps ago. Veron, I think, just simply having one of those moments, as we do say hello in the YouTube chat there to Roberto FDZ. I believe that's Roberto Fernandez, who's got a little yellow heart there, and great to see the love there, Roberto, and I hope you're doing well. And as I try to make the way on down the back straight here, we're right now still 20 minutes on the clock here at Sebring as they roar the way in towards turn number 17, and Jose Takuri there turning in nice and early, wary of the dirty air with the front end of the front engine rear wheel drive BMW with 4.4 litre V8 engine with a twin turbo. But into the pits comes Budek with the flat 6-cylinder Porsche 911 RSR, and right now Budek making his way on down pit lane. He's going to release Takuri. He'll be releasing also what will be Matthias Eriksson, who makes his way on through there, as we do see the Ferrari 488 driver making his way on past what is our commentary booth window. And well, for Eriksson, it's going to be one of the situations whereby he's gaining little by little over the drivers around him, but he's just got to keep the consistent pace. We've also got Marcus Seifert into the pit lane, a few other drivers still staying out there. Indeed, nobody inside what is our top 9 opt-ins pit as of yet. And, well, indeed, our top 10 as well. Jose Takuri moving up there. But where's David Budek coming out of the pit lane? Well, there he is. Look on the right of your picture, and that is going to be Blendier. And there, again, is the demonstration of what happens with a huge undercutting strategy. But does Budek come out ahead of Broom is the big question now. As we're going to see, it was Broom there. Budek goes underneath the camera, and as they make the way out to turn number 1, it's going to be close. But unfortunately for Matthew Broom, he opted to stay in the pack for too long, and therefore he comes out exactly where he was only before he came into the pit lane. So therefore, Marius Blendier once again showing that sometimes the undercut is the way to do it, and absolutely playing it perfectly in the number 11 in the Corvette C8R in order to do so. But of course, this is the strategy for the battle for what will be the last of the top 10 positions at the front of the field. Meanwhile, yet to pit, and to be fair, I think his strategy is going to be pit when the fuel tank says it's almost dry, is Vicente Aparicio, who right now is absolutely running away here, and the number 1 driver making his way through the final quarter and on to another lap. Or will he stay there? Well, hold the phone on that one, because we have got a side-by-side battle coming out of turn number 7, and this is between Blendier, well, not Blendier and Broom, it's between Broom and Budek. Budek on the right of the picture, meanwhile Broom on the left of your picture, too wide in towards turn number 10 they go, and as they make the way through, well, in the end, a little bit of snap oversteer there for Budek as he comes out of the corner, and Matthew Broom goes all the way around the outside to cement the move. A lovely move there for Matthew Broom, and up into 15th place in the number 6, and that could be pivotal for later on as Blendier's running away to 6 seconds distance. And as the majority of the top 10 now coming to the pits, apart from Daniel Hernandez, well, right now this fight surely is going to cost them more time. And where will Veron, well, will Takuri come out in all of this? That is a question that we're waiting for an answer for, as our race leader, now second place driver, Aparicio, is making his way out of the pit lane. And well, Burbel, Dominguez and Lazar are going to be following suit very quickly. And in fact, let's look at them as they all leave the pit lane. Any changes here? Well, Santi Burbel in the end comes out in always effective second. Adrian Dominguez, meanwhile, jumps up into effective third place. Well, in fact, no, he doesn't, because keep in mind, Hernandez is still out there putting in the laps, so he could be third, he could be fourth, but he does get some time over Sergei Lazar, who's a little bit further back now. Meanwhile, Mario Veron starts to leave the pit lane. Where is he going to come out in all of this? Well, let's look to the blimp camera as he does, and look at that! That's Marius Blendier, who's roared his way into 9th place. Blendier's absolutely nailed this on strategy. As Takuri comes out of the pit lane, well, he comes out just ahead of Broom versus Budek, and their fighting has really cemented the fact they're going to come out of the back of what was that quintet of drivers. But the point being right now that it's Marius Blendier who's gained the most in the pit stop. He has gained effectively 4 places, and he's right on the back of Wolfgang Stoffgen. Meanwhile, Justin Noel battling with Sylvain Depeche up the inside there into turn number 7, goes away in the Porsche, and well, Noel gives him all the space and light today. I think trying to get the tyre temperatures back up there, not too happy with how the car feels after leaving the pit lane. It's not uncommon, to be fair. You do have a brief window where you are stationary. You don't change the tyres in these GTEs because they have got the tyre life to go the distance, but the point being in the fact you lose a little bit of tyre temperature, and suddenly you've got to refine that tyre temperature without pushing the tyre too hard on pit lane exit. It's not easy to do, but as Justin Knoll drops a place, when he's got what is the car there, albeit it was a lap down, but that's Jörg Seefeld tucked in behind him as they make the way on through. But he's got a sizable gap of 7.8 seconds to what is Wolfgang Stoffgen, and therefore Knoll will be looking to try and chase down Delpeche now as they roar the way into the second half of this race. But as they do, we look to Mav Gardner, who's all over the back of Marcus Seufert. These two have had a bit of a swap in terms of positions quite recently. The number 24 driver, our lowest rated driver in this top split today, well, he's enjoying a good bit of battling here as he's going to try and go around the outside to inside of Seufert in towards what will be turn at number 13 at Tower. But in the end, tucks in behind and can't quite find a way into the mix. But as he does chase after his rival, we look to what is Daniel Hernandez, who leaves the pit lane, and he's going to come back out, I believe, in second place here ahead of Santi Burbel. So the two of them swapping places towards the end of their first stint. It made sense in the fact that it was to help Burbel save some fuel, and Hernandez in the end the faster of the two drivers, it would seem, and well, gaining as a result of the strategy as well, having a stationary time that was 1.4 seconds shorter compared to Santi Burbel, and that'll be explained by the fuel saving he was able to do in the first stint behind his teammate. And well, they swap the places, they stay second and third, and as they make the way around now, it's going to be the chase against Aparicio, and well, trying to also make sure that Adrian Dominguez does not get into the battle for third place all the way to the end, as Sergei Lazar in fifth and just carries on his merry way as they make the way down towards the braking zone here for turn at number 7 for will be the 16th time today. But as they come on down, we have had a bit of an instant further on back because we do see that David Budek is all the way down to 13th place. Not quite sure how he got there, but we're going to get some answers now as we get a replay of what happened to David Budek. Now this was on lap number 13 as he was battling at the time with Matthew Broom, making their way out of Big Bend and in towards the hairpin. Looked to the inside, went all in on the brakes here, trying to get it stopped in time, and the car just went straight on to the escape road, and well, Budek in the end having to take the long way round to complete the hairpin, but very good awareness there from Budek, also for Broom not to end up turning into the wayward Porsche, and David Budek losing out the place there and losing some significant race time. But still, great awareness from all involved, and now Matthias Eriksson will have a new target in front of him to chase after in the Ferrari 488, and that will be David Budek rather than Matthew Broom, and we'll see him in the distance there by the best part of what is 2 seconds, if that, as they head in towards turn number 10. But through the right and in towards left they go, and as they do, Eriksson still keeping on the hunt as long as he can, albeit I would imagine here it's all going to be about just taking it step by step and trying to see if he can claw in that time. I think he believes he's got the pace in the number 23, but he's just got to keep that Ferrari in the optimum window, because of course this is the car that is very sensitive in terms of its tyre temperatures, and if you go too far above or below that window suddenly, this car goes from being one of the fastest out there by default to being one of the hardest to drive, and that's the last thing you want at the end of the day. But as he makes his way on around, we look to Sylvain Delpeche, the Porsche driver and the leading Porsche driver inside the top 10. He's the only Porsche inside the top 10, otherwise it's all Corvettes from 1st through to 10th. And then we do have the BMW M8 to Takuri in 11th, the point being here Delpeche right now trying to keep Justin Knoll at bay, although Knoll seems to have found that tyre temperature that went missing out the exit of the pit lane, and now is all over the back of Delpeche once more, as further back Wolfgang Stoffgen in the hunt for 8th place as Marius Blendia right behind him. Blendia half a second back, and well, right now the number 14 and number 11, they're getting close, they're getting intimate, but they're not quite scrapping elbows as yet as they make the way down towards turn at number 3. But we're on the way in towards that left hand and then the right left that follows it. Well, right now the battles may have gone a little bit quiet, but we are expecting some battles to brim towards the end of the race, including this fight for 15th place between Marcus Seufert and Mav Gardner as they come through the left-hander. And a bit further back, that's Ian Hannon, who is your last driver on the lead lap in 17th place with what is the goldy bronze strip in the centre of the Porsche with the light blue around the edges. And we'll good to see Hannon out there in the number 16, just keeping his head down and trying to get to the end of the race there, despite not having too much company to race with. But you never know what can happen come at the very end. But speaking of you never know what can happen here, well, this man's got it clear in front of him, but he hasn't got it clear behind him. Marcus Seufert right now with pressure building from behind. Here comes Mav Gardner then. Can the Corvette driver go all in the brakes? He's going to think about it as he tries to go up the inside into hairpin. Snakes one way, snakes the other. Gets the car caught on the side. Or the Seufert's car, and in the end they rub paint. And how they both didn't go off for going to a spin, what I don't know. But what I can tell you is that Seufert's not quite happy with that, and Mav Gardner immediately gives the place back. Great racing respect shown there from Mav Gardner. And in the end, you could see what he wanted to do. He wanted to outbrake the Porsche, but the problem was, as he went onto the brakes, at first the car seemed to stop, but it didn't quite slow down enough, and suddenly Gardner put a bit more pressure on, and we did see what was the front right brake start to lock up, and it caused it to slide side to side, and in the end, he tried to get it under control by fighting at the steering wheel and releasing releasing the brake, but he had to ride along his opponent's panels in order to do so. But the fact that both drivers there swap the places back immediately, it shows that for Mav Gardner, he doesn't want to gain a place unfairly, and he is a gentleman racer as they make the way in towards turn 15 and 16. So as they look to reset and go again, no major damage to them, just a little bit of paint that's come off there. Well, right now they're going to be focusing on trying to think, okay, well, where are we going to see this battle play out now? Particularly for Mav Gardner, he knows that he's not going to be able to beat that Porsche on braking. Marcus Seufer has demonstrated that, so instead he's got to try and beat it on speed down the Ormond Straight. Will he be able to get into Sunset Bend here? He's going to try and go for it here in the toe. He's close. Is he close enough to think about the lunge? He is going to go for it as he opens up the door to the inside, and well, on the inside he will go, but Seufer here is now going to look for the cutback as they make the way out of the corner, and as they roar their way towards the timeline, well, Seufer immediately cuts over to the racing line. We can see up there now Gardner's going to gradually bring himself over, but as he does so, they're practically side by side as they're heading towards the opening braking zone, less than half a tenth between the two of them, and it's going to be Gardner who defends hard as Miguel Seufer goes very deep at the corner, brings it back together, misses his braking point slightly and tries to build up a bit of momentum now, but it's an easy mistake to make, just a bit unsighted there. And now as we look from them to two Corvettes absolutely scrapping. Well, that's coming out of the turn 7 hairpin, and that's Wolfgang Stoffken trying to keep Marius Blendia behind him as they come on through Fangio and in towards Cunningham Corner. Too wide they come in towards Cunningham. It's going to be Blendia around the outside, and it's smooth braking, but locks up on the front right brake, goes a bit deep, but they're still side by side of corner exit for a brief moment, and Stoffken right now getting back ahead. Brilliant driving from the German driver there, just playing it cool, calm and collective, make Marius Blendia make the mistakes for him, and as they come out to Tower Bend, he's still holding on to 8th place, but Blendia has got his sights on it, but the problem is they fight too much, well then they're going to end up crawling backwards towards this man, Mario Varen, and well, Varen would love to help out Stoffken, his teammate, if he can, but as they head up towards the braking zone, well, from them, we've had a bit of a moment for Sylvain Depesche, I believe. He's just lost his 6th place to Justin Knoll. We can see some smoke in the distance there just clearing, so I would imagine there's perhaps been a bit of a mistake for Sylvain Depesche. He doesn't normally make mistakes, but even the best out there do every so often, and let's find out what exactly happened to Sylvain Depesche. And this was coming on through at turn number 15 in towards 16. The number 3 driver in the end looks clean at first, in towards the right hand of 16, and just very aggressive on the snap there. I think coming out a bit wider than he normally would to open up the corner, and you could see the rear of the car did not like the weight transfer in terms of the rate at which the weight shifted on the rear of the car, and as a result having to get it back together. Well, thankfully didn't go all the way round, but that could have been disastrous if the car had gone a little bit more sideways, but thankfully wasn't to be, but does lose the place to Justin Knoll, who is now 2 seconds up the road, and Will Depesche will try and close him back down, but remember, he's got to try and cool those tyres down because they will have overheated a little bit as a result of that big slide on the rear end. And just a reminder, of course, the Porsche 911 RSI, a little bit trivia for you, the only modern racing Porsche in the last, I believe, 15 years, where the engine's not over the rear axle. In order to align it with GT specifications, they've had to put the engine in what is the mid-engine rear-wheel drive configuration in terms of the drivetrain to engine. But right now, we're not focusing anymore on that. We're focused on the battle between Stoffken and Blendia. Blendia trying to go around the outside of the hairpin. It's very bold to do so in the number 11, but brilliant racing between these two as he tries to go for it. And we jump aboard for a brief moment with the number 11. And right now, Stoffken is, I think, just having to hold off the absolute barrage of attacks here from Blendia. And as he comes into towards Cunningham this time, Blendia does get it stopped on a dime through the braking zone and moves up into 8th place. A lovely move from Marius Blendia. Wolfgang Stoffken, to be fair, going absolutely defensive. Now can Stoffken come back as they come in towards Tower? Weeds close, but not quite close enough as they make the way around, and on board we go with the number 14 as he tries to get back into the hunt, but it looks like Blendia getting the better exit out of Tower Corner, and that's how they're going to stay at least for a brief moment as we follow them now all the way in towards what will be the end of this lap. Well, from the left hand of Bishop into the right hand that starts off Le Mans, and now here's the Le Mans corner as they come in towards turn number 16, and as they do, Blendia goes a little bit deep, just overheating those the front left and rear left tyre, and as they make it onto the back straight, Stoffken gets closer, but not close enough as they drag race their way up towards what will be Sunset Bend for the 20th time of asking. 2.5 tenths it is. They make the way closer and closer towards the braking zone, and as they head onto the ankles of Stoffken, is going to go a little bit deeper into the corner, try and set up an early approach to the apex, gets a really good line, and as a result will be 2 tenths of corner exit in the toe as well, gets the power down nicely, and now it's going to be who is going to be the bolder, the two-hander braking into turns 1, 2 and 3. Well, Stoffken close, but not quite close enough to try and force the issue here, so he's got to try and do it once again as he gets very, very close there, and Blendia just about stops the car in time, but you can see it almost crept away from Stoffken trying to carry that momentum. Well, Blendia covering off what Stoffken's approach of trying to cut back to the inside, and therefore Stoffken not quite able to carry the momentum, and finally having his momentum curbed for him at what was the late stage. But still, I would imagine you can't count Wolfgang Stoffken out as of yet. yet, for the simple reason he's definitely showing right now that whilst he was struggling a little bit to get away from Blendir, he's not struggling to stay with the man who just overtook him as they head in towards turn 7, and time is running out. We've got less than 7 minutes plus the final lap to go, but the point being right now the battle for 8th place is only getting hotter with Mario Veron only 1.1 seconds behind it right now and looking to help out his teammate. But I think also if they're on the radio to each other, I can imagine Mario saying to Wolfgang, well, Wolfgang, do you want me to help out? And Wolfgang's probably saying, no, he's mine, and that's in reference to Marius Blendir right in front, because I think right now Stoffgen wants to try and get the place back, and he wants to do it on his own terms as they come out of what is turn number 10 in towards 13 they go. And Stoffgen right now, he's become a completely different animal in terms of the driver. That's not to besmirch or be rude about him. I'm loving seeing this from Stoffgen in the fact that when he was going defensive, he didn't like being the defensive driver, but when he's on the chase, he loves chasing Blendir down. I think they're both drivers who love the hunt rather than being hunted, and as they make the way in towards Le Mans corner this time with 3.5 tenths on entry, but what's it going to be on exit is the big question. Will Blendir again going a little bit deep off the corner, and Stoffgen getting the better run out, but they stay at 3.5 tenths. In fact, the gap opens up a little bit. Stoffgen struggling there on the exit by comparison, not quite able to get the power down as much as he would like, even though it's a smoother line, and right now Marius Blendir able to open up that gap a little bit more to feel safe into what will be the start-finish straight. As they come around for his sunset bends then, well, we can see Stoffgen again, very tight line at the apex. Blendir letting the car roll out wide, two very different lines, and well, Stoffgen is going to gain as they power the way on down the start finish straight. 2 tenths of the checkered flag line, and as they come down towards what we turn number 1, Stoffgen now within 1.5 tenths here, but this time he's going to play it a little bit smarter. He's going to stay back a bit on the entry into turn 1 and make Blendir go a little bit deeper on corner exit, and that's going to get him nice and close to turn number 3, but is he close enough? No, he's not. He has to wait. Behind them in the battle for 11th place, the right to be best of the rest, it's Takuri versus Broom, and Broom right now close, but not close enough to think about a move as we look back for the rear of what is a one and only BMW M8 on the grid today, and Jose Takuri right now absolutely doing everything in his power to try and stay ahead in the number 21 as they make the way through Big Bend, and will roaring the way on down this BMW. You can see just how much it pulls on those corners in terms of the gap it initially opens up before the Porsche starts to get itself up to speed in the slipstream, and we're under braking again. Takuri going a little bit deep. The BMW's brakes now are really starting to show their weakness compared to the Porsche, and well, the difference being here, of course, he's got track position, and therefore he can just simply hold the position as Matthew Broom stays there right with him as they head in towards what we Cunningham corner. Onto the brakes, they get ready to go. Broom was thinking about it there. You could tell he was 50-50 on the fence. There's a space. I could potentially lunge for it, but Jose Takuri just simply holding his line there and not expecting the Porsche driver to go all in, knowing that there's a bit more respect between them than a lunge of that caliber. And as they make the way through Tower Bend onto what will be the stretch towards Bishop Corner, where it's 4.5 tenths there, but it's oscillating back and forth between the two of them, given the relative strengths and weaknesses of the drivers and also their respective machines and setups. But from where there's plenty of battling between these drivers, we do look back to Marcus Swifer, who's still chasing after Mav Gardner and trying to get back to him in due course. And as they make the way in towards what will be turn at number 13 and out of it, well, there was an off-track earlier which cost Swifer his place and lost out to Mav Gardner after their brilliant battle. But as they make the way on through the corners, the key point being now that Swifer is still on the attack and still trying to get back in there before all is said and done. But from two drivers who are close to battling to two drivers who are definitely battling right now, Takuri versus Broom, and Broom getting a better run through Sunset Bend as the BMW runs wide and deep. And that's going to enable Broom to look around the outside here as they make the way along, and we'll power the way on through. I'm hearing there's been some technical issues with Stoffgen's car. We'll get you an update on that when we can, ladies and gentlemen. But that means that this battle now isn't for 11th, it's for 10th place, and the right to be the last that drives inside the top 10 as they roll on through. But Wolfgang Stoffgen, we have lost from this race, I do believe, for the time being. We will see if we can get him back, and if we do get him back, we'll let you know. But otherwise, that could be what will be our 6th driver to retire from this race after 24 starters. We do only currently have 19 runners, and Stoffgen may become what is our 6th retiree as a result of a late technical issue, which would be heartbreaking given the battle he was having with Marius Blendir, and we were absolutely loving it whilst it was playing out. But still, that's sometimes the way it goes. Given how hard he pushed, it's understandable if something has gone very, very wrong. But from a driver who's had it go very, very wrong to a driver who's got it absolutely going perfectly right for him, well, right now Vicente Aparicio leading up this race by 9.5 seconds and just continuing to extend that advantage only by a couple of attempts a lap. He doesn't have a huge pace advantage, but he's got enough to feel very comfortable comfortable, and that advantage now sitting at what is 9.6 seconds, almost 10 seconds here as he comes towards the end of what will be lap number 22, and he'll go on to his final tour of the circuit under race conditions as he goes on to lap number 23, and as he does, the white flag will wave from Barney Flag, our flag bearer there, up in his little tower, and right now Aparicio leading this race comfortably. As you can see there in the rear of the picture, that is Daniel Hernandez, who makes his way across the timeline in second place, and right now continues to give chase, but in a comfortable second place, with Santi Burbell just behind, as you see Burbell there making his way out through, and then we do have Adrian Dominguez in fourth place right now, who's been able to maintain that advantage over Sergei Lazar by the best part of what is 1.2 seconds for KTT competitions, and well, I'd imagine the number 7 driver here will feel as though that's all he can do today is go for fourth place, and it sounds small when you put it like that, but the point being, I think he would have loved to chase down the podium, but also he'll be proud to have kept Sergei Lazar from being in what is a 2-3-4 with his teammates there, and in the end being the thorn in the team side. But still, plenty surely to come on this final lap of racing, particularly if your name is Jose Takuri, trying to hold on to 10th place right now. He'll get the update to let him know that he is battling for 10th, not 11th, and therefore this is going to mean a little bit more to the man who was absolutely lightning quick off the race start, gaining was the best part of 10 places by the time he got to turn number 1, and as they come down towards what will be turn number 3, well, right now this BMW M8, definitely not a popular car compared to most in the GTE category. I'll tell you one thing, those who drive it, they normally make it work wonders, and Takuri doing exactly that as Mav Gardner versus Marcus Seufer. Well, that's going to be Seufer looking up the inside of Gardner into turn number 1, and it forces Seufer to take a tight line, but more importantly, Gardner goes deep as a result. Let's go get Seufer the opportunity to take a quick look on the inside turn number 3, but he can't quite find it this time. But these two are battling each other right at the close, and well, as they do, Takuri versus Broom, they make the way out of what is turn number 10 in towards, there'll be a turn, well, in fact that was turn number 7, in towards turn number 10 they go now. Broom looking around the outside, Takuri goes defense on the inside, crawls to the apex, and therefore will make it nice and slow as they go. But from then we've got to come back to your race leader, because he makes his way through the final corner. It has been an absolutely faultless drive from pole position, and for Vicente Aparicio, it is going to be another top split win for him as he crosses the line there, 10 seconds clear of the rest of the field, and what a drive from him, no doubt about that, in the number 1. Then finishing in second place, it'll be Daniel Hernandez, runner-up today, and really in a world of his own in his own right, with Santi Burbell and his teammate third just behind him, and then it will be finishing in fourth place. Fend off the charge of Sergei Lazar, it'll be Adrian Dominguez there in fourth, ahead of Lazar, who finishes 5th. We've still got some more drives to come on through. And the hump to 6th place, it may not be a top 5, but to be fair for the 22 driver, Justin Knowles absolutely had a dream race to finish 6th, given the pressure he held off from Sylvain Delpech. Speaking of Delpech, you see him there in the rear of the picture, finishing in 7th place as they cross the line. 2 laps down with Jorg Seefeld there, who crosses in at 19th. Maris Blendier with the ultimate undercut and strategy finishes 8th. Well done to him, ahead of Mario Veren. And Jose Takuri will take the final spot inside the top 10 of the BMW M8, ahead of Matthew Broom, who's best of the rest, in 11th, with David Budek in 12th place. In the end, it didn't quite work out in strategy today for the Porsche driver. We had some brilliant battles, and then we will see the leading and sole Ferrari remaining in this race will be Matthias Eriksson, finish in 13th place there, and it'll be 8 seconds before we see the end of the Gardner-Seufer battle, and it's Mav Gardner who holds on to 14th at the end of the brilliant, respectful battle between these two, with Marcus Seufer in 15th, and then we'll have Ian Hannon, last of our lead lap finishers, taking at 16th place there. And well done to him for sticking in it, and to be fair, he was closed on Gardner and Seufer in the closing laps, so his pace did come alive, and perhaps he found a little bit of time out there. But as the checker flag falls and the race circuit starts to fall a little bit silent, well, Santi Burbell on the grass there and parking up, just taking a big breather after a brilliant race. But all of our drivers there definitely earning some rest after a fantastic, what was 45 minutes of racing action. And well, let's bring you those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, ladies and gentlemen, and here they are. And as we can see, after 45 minutes of brilliant battling action at the Sebring International Raceway for week number 8 of the 2025 Season 2 calendar of the official iRacing GTE Sprint Series, it was Vicente Aparicio who took the victory in the end in this top split, this 3.2K top split session, ahead of what was VSR Competitions' Daniel Hernandez. Third place went the way of Santi Burbell. That was your podium, an all-Spanish podium there. Congratulations to all 3 of our Corvette drivers. And the theme of Corvettes carried on through with Adrian Dominguez and Sergei Lazar completing your top 5 there in their back and forth run. They never truly got to fight each other, but they were always within 1.5 seconds, if not less, of each other all the way through, pushing each other to the limit. And then 6th place, it was Justin Knoll for SJS Racing, the American driver there, finishing just outside the top top 5, but to be fair, having one of the star performances outside the top 5, no doubt about it. Sylvain Depech will be gutted to have missed out on 6th place, but in the end, a small mistake cost him dear, but took 7th all the same, and a brilliant drive from 16th on the grid for the Frenchman in number 3 for Cube Racing. And then we saw Marius Blendia with that ultimate strategic call, leaping his way up to 8th place with the undercut ahead of Mario Veren, and then it was Jose Takuri with that lightning start, catapulting him all the way to the bottom end of what was the top 10. He never let go of it in the end and fought his way on through. Fortunate with the return of Wolfgang Stoffgen, as otherwise it would have been a 11th place finish, but still Takuri earning the right to be in that top 10, no doubt about it, in the sole BMW M8 on this grid. Best rest in 11th was Matthew Broomnet in his brilliant back and forth battle between himself, Takuri, Budek, and also what was Stoffgen all the way through the race distance. But from Broom to David Budek in 12th place there, and a bit of a frustrating end to his race given how well it went early on, but strategy didn't quite work out for him and therefore had to settle for 12th. Matthias Eriksson at 13th there in the Ferrari 488 GTE, the only Ferrari to make its way to the checker flag, but a great drive from the Swede there to keep it together, fight his way from the back of the field as well after a dismal qualifying session. And it was Mav Garno held on to 14th at the close, ahead of Yosof Racing's Marcus Seufer, who finished 15th, and then last year lead lap finishers was Ian Hannon. It was 2 laps down, but an unfortunate retirement, but he will be classified as a finisher, given the distance to the race winner of Wolfgang Stoffgen. 17th place there for the German driver. A frustrating end, because it would have been a top 10 if it weren't for that technical issue. And then we did see Julian Eichenlaub 2 laps down in 18th place in the Ford GT, and Jorg Seefeld there 4 laps down, but 19th at the close, bringing it on home, despite all the difficulties early on in the race. We had commiserations there for retirements for Callum Lux, who was listed as 20th, but we listed as did not finish, and the same will be there for what will be Dominic Nuckel, also Matthias Matthew Siegel, Gregory Rabb, and Diego Garcia, or Diego Gonzalez Garcia as he's known in full. So 24 starters, in the end 19 finishers, and of that, ladies and gentlemen, 16 of them on the lead lap. But what a race all the way through it, and Sebring absolutely delivering. But today was the day where Vicente Aparicio absolutely led the way, only by small margins lap to lap, but all those margins added up in the end, and the number 1 driver in terms of his door number made sure to retain his number 1 status on the top of the podium. But as the Sebring circuit falls silent, well, it's almost time for us to fall silent as well, as we do now need to leave Sebring behind and look ahead to next time. And well, that was week number 8, and we will continue the story once again in a week's time on Wednesday the 14th of May 2025, as we make our way to the US state of New York, and it will be at the Watkins Glen International Circuit, where we continue to build up the momentum in the second half of the season. Arguably the mecca of road racing in the United States of America, is a circuit not to be missed, because with its heavily banked corners and its absolutely flat out nature, the GTE racing machines will absolutely thrive and dance the tune of what will be high speed frantic action from lights out to checker flag. So tune in next week to carry on the story of what has been the season 2 Top Split Series. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, we have been the official iRacing GTE Sprint Series. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain the Split, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, have a great rest of your week. Remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.